Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. I am Dr. Riegel. I'm the developmental minister here at First Church, and I want to extend a warm welcome this morning to our visitors. Those of you who are here, and also those of you watching online, thank you for joining us. We're very happy to have you with us this morning. First Unitarian Church is a place where you are free to be you, no matter your race, your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your socioeconomic status, your age, what have you. So bring your questioning mind and your expansive heart. Bring your entire self to this beloved community. Our mission here at First Unitarian Church is to welcome all with love, to support learning and spiritual growth, to serve our wider community, and to work for justice, equity, and inclusion. If you are visiting with us for the first time today, we especially welcome you. Please feel free to join us for coffee hour following the service, which takes place in Ellen Hall, the large room just forward and to the left of the entrance you came into church from today. We'd like to have a chance to get to know you and tell you a little bit about our beloved community. Our flowers today, this must be a misprint, are donated by Tim Cross and Lois Gish in honor of their 53rd wedding anniversary. That will be on November 18th, and I didn't think you two were barely 53 years old, so. I want to draw your attention to the announcements in the order of service today. Please do take the 90 seconds it takes to read those, because sometimes something new pops up that we want to make sure you know about, but we don't want to take 5 minutes during the service to read what's in your hand for you. Having said that, Nancy Sawyer does have a few words to say this morning. So Nancy, if you could come up at this point, thank you.
Good morning. We survived Heart in Hand. We had a great time. So you should have received an invoice for the items that you purchased or had a winning bid on. Please review the invoice for accuracy. There were many, many errors. We made, I believe, $17,650. If you heard a number larger than that, it's because of all the errors. Options for submitting your payments. There's a team outside of the Fisher Room this morning, and next Sunday morning we will also be there. You can pay by check or cash. If you're online or you just want to mail your check, you can mail your check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219, or you can pay by Breeze. If you are a member of the congregation and have a Breeze account, you can pay by Breeze. In the email were instructions on how to pay by Breeze, and we also have instructions on how to pay by Breeze out on the table as well. If you write a check, please, please, please put Heart in Hand in the memo line so that when Lisa Yunker in the office gets your check, she knows how to attribute your money. If you won items and still need to pick them up, I believe our team has set them out. Gary's giving me a thumbs up. Out on the table, sort of in the art area. Also in the art area is a list of all the items and all the winners. So if you want to see if you were a winner, or if you were a donor and want to see who the winners of your item was, you can go to the art wall and look at the art wall. Thank you, donors. I mean, we love the people who bid, but we also love the donors because we couldn't have an auction without the donors. So thank you for everybody who donated something. I will be sending out donor thank you emails later on this week, which will also list who the winners were for all the items that you donated. And I want to give an extra shout out to my backroom staff. Lori Frank, I could not have done this without her. Dennis Finney, Scott Kelly, Kyle Lewis, Dick Miltner, they loved me despite my craziness last night. And that's it. And thank you to Gary and Kara and the rest of the team. Allison that put stuff in, Patricia, Barbara, the team was great, so yay!
And Denise Olden wanted to come forward and say a few words on behalf of the Earth Care team.
Good morning. I'm Janet Schneider.
And I'm Denise Olden, and we're representing the Earth Care team and want to give you an update on our progress.
First of all, we would like to give a big shout out to Sherry Wellington and Yvonne Gagnon for the above and beyond work that they have done in dealing with the recycling here at church. Thanks so much. And also thanks to all members who have participated in our recycling efforts.
The good news is we feel we've increased awareness at the church and the need to recycle and begun to educate people on how best to do that. But there's always many options and changes that happen.
The other news is that we're a small group, and the task of handling members' recycling has grown beyond us. Denise recently spent a day sorting some 90 pounds of batteries and pricing the best place to recycle them. I'm sure all of you know, but recycling is not always free. Sometimes it costs money to recycle certain items, but long story short, it wiped out our budget, the recycling of these batteries. So while we reluctantly do this, we're going to be closing the collection bins here at church.
Our new focus is on increasing our educational efforts so that families can be responsible for their own recycling. And if you struggle with transportation issues, we also want to encourage anyone who's interested in joining the group, has new ideas, wants to expand our earth care kind of efforts, please let us know.
So talk to Janet, that's me, or Denise, that's her, about your ideas. Our efforts in the grand scheme of things are really very small, but we feel strongly that each of us needs to do what we can to reduce our use of plastic and other recyclables, reuse things when possible, and then recycle whatever we can, and monitor our energy use also. Thanks so much for your participation, and we welcome any input. Thanks.
All right, before we continue our service, let's take a moment, wave to the people who are watching online from home, and then rise and greet our neighbors, or if you're watching from home, say hello in the chat. And when you hear the singing bowl bang, please return to your seats. So I was just reminded, and this is one of the reasons it's really important to read the announcements. 10,000 Villages is set up during coffee hour today, so if you want to support their cause, and I hope you do, take some time to engage them. What's that? All week? Oh, all week in the stores too. All right, awesome. What's that? Mention First Unitarian Church, get 10%. Anything else? Oh, we get 10%. Oh, all right. So there you go. We're trying to limit the number of in-person announcements, but they're creeping in again, so that's why I want you to read your announcements, and maybe we need to put a little more of that kind of information in there. All right, Noriko, would you come forward and help us light the chalice this morning, please? This quote is anonymous. I couldn't find the source, but it is spot on. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. All right, Mr. Finney, would you come forward for us and share this month's board moment?
The first line that I wrote down for my board moment was, it's been a busy month at First Church. And all the people that have preceded me, you could tell how busy we've been. I had wanted to thank Gary and Kara for the great resurrection of the Heart and Hand auction. Again, it was a lot of work, and thank you for bringing that back. It was a great time. I had more, but Nancy covered everything else that I was going to talk about. Thanks to all of you who took the time to fill out the member survey that, when summarized, becomes part of our congregational record that's submitted for our ministerial search. Thanks to the ministerial search for all their efforts. They report that they are on task to meet their impossible goal of getting this all in early December. So thank them for all their hard work. And thanks to the Finance Committee. They are trying something new this year. Members will receive, hopefully next week, or this coming week, a reminder on your email. It will be an email that's sent to you, but it's to remind you of your pledge status. It also helps the committee check to see that we're capturing it all right. Another email will go out in February and another one in May, just to remind you. So it's not, we get to the end of the year and you find that you haven't been thinking about your pledge and it's piled up. So it's just a reminder. Thanks also to the church council for their extra work they're putting in to reshape the team/committee structure here at First Church. Their goal is to prioritize the church and community need with the volunteers that we have in their time. And finally, thanks to all of you for sustaining this beloved community at First Church. Thank you.
All right, our first hymn this morning is number 100. I've got Peace Like a River, and I want to encourage you all to sing this as though you feel it. So please rise as you are able and help sing this with some verve, if you would. There actually are 2 more verses to that hymn, but we'll stop there. Not the most optimistic place to stop that hymn, but we're good. All right. Our reading this morning is from Marcus Aurelius. I've hit you all with some pretty heavy spiritual stuff the last few weeks, but I know that not every Unitarian Universalist is as interested in the heavy spiritual stuff as me, so we're shifting gears, and this morning's approach is more of a rationalistic, humanistic approach to the wisdom of living life. We're going to be looking at the Stoics, and the reading is from Marcus Aurelius, or actually it's from Maria Popova about Marcus Aurelius, entitled The Stoic Antidote to Frustration, Marcus Aurelius and How to Keep Your Mental Composure and Emotional Equanimity, from the website Brain Pickings, which is not a bad website to peruse if you're looking for grist for your mill. That's God. Tell her I'm busy. I got things to do, Lord. The vast majority of our mental, emotional, and spiritual suffering comes from the collision between our expectations and reality. As we dust ourselves off amid the rubble, bruised and indignant, we cause ourselves further suffering and outrage by ranting that reality dared defy our expectations. The remedy is not to try to bend an impartial universe to our will. The remedy is to calibrate our expectations, a remedy that might feel far too pragmatic to be within reach in the heat of the collision moment. 2 millennia ago, before the outrage culture of the internet, Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius addressed this curious, self-mauling tendency of the human mind with his characteristic precision of insight and unsentimental problem-solving. He did this in the notebooks that became his meditations, not a terribly long read, mind you, and so if you're looking for grist for your mill, go home, get online, order Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Meditations is a book that went on to stake the pillars of the philosophical system called Stoicism. Consider this by Aurelius. Whenever a person's lack of shame offends you, you should immediately ask yourself, so is it possible for there to be no shameless people in the world? It isn't. And you should therefore stop demanding the impossible. He's just one of those shameless people who must necessarily exist in the world. You should keep the same thought readily available for when you're faced with devious and untrustworthy people and people who are flawed in any way. As soon as you remind yourself that it's impossible for such people not to exist, you'll be kinder to every one of them. It's also helpful immediately to consider what virtue nature has granted us human beings to deal with any given offense. Gentleness, for instance, to counter discourteous people. Millennia before William James lit the dawn of modern psychology with the radical assertion that our experience is what we attend to, Marcus Aurelius served that Stoic cocktail of simply worded, obvious truths that are difficult truths by which to live. Says Aurelius, the things of the world cannot affect the soul. They lie inert outside of the soul. Only internal beliefs can disturb the soul. It's up to you to manage your beliefs. So as I was thinking through this sermon on Stoicism, I thought about some personal anecdotes I wanted to share with you all. And as I was thinking about those, I thought, this would work pretty well as a more contemplative sermon. So I ended up turning it into 4 5-ish minute ruminations on certain phrases of Marcus Aurelius. And I'm going to share those with you, and after each one, I'm just going to give us a minute or a minute and a half to just sit in silence together and think about my ruminations. You may find them worthy of 90 seconds of grist for your internal mill, or you can just sit quietly while the rest of us sit quietly together, and then I'll move on to the next one and we'll do the same thing. So Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look to the past with its destroyed empires and kings and gods that rose and fell, and you will see the future too." Look to the past with its destroyed empires, kings, and gods that rose and fell, and you will see the future too. That little piece of wisdom reminds me of the poem Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. Ozymandias goes like this. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well knew those passions which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, the heart that fed them. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lane and level sands stretch far away. The image on today's cover of the Order of Service is essentially the image that Shelley is trying to convey in that poem about a king who was mighty, who said, look upon my might and despair. But through ages of time, everything has fallen away, and all that remains is a statue to him, stretched out among the barren sands. On a superficial reading, this poem could be interpreted as a condemnation of life, given that all one's efforts eventually come to naught. Indeed, not only all one's efforts, but one's entire self succumbs to the sands of time. And whose memory shall we persist a century from now? But there's another way to read this poem. At least I prefer to read this poem differently. One could read this poem as an exhortation to build interior rather than exterior temples. That is, perhaps Shelley is telling us that meaning in life comes from what one makes of oneself while one is living, rather than what traces of oneself one leaves in the world after one is gone. For another piece of wisdom from Aurelius, nowhere can one find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in one's own soul. Look to the past, with its destroyed empires and kings and gods that rose and fell, and you will see the future too. Nobody needs much to be happy. It is all in how you see your own circumstance. Nobody needs much to be happy. It is all in how you see your own circumstance. So most everyone listening today knows that I used to go on pilgrimage to a little ashram snuggled in a remote part of Tamil Nadu in southern India. And the ashram there funds and runs an elder home in the nearby village. It houses elderly people who have no relatives to care for them or who have been rejected by their families for one reason or another. And over the course of my many pilgrimages, I came to know one particular resident very well, who became very, very dear to me. If we could show that image, that'd be great. That's her. Keep that up for just a minute. This is the first time I encountered her, and the smile she gave me when I took her photo as she sat on the floor of her small hut at the elder home absolutely stole my heart. And every return trip thereafter saw me make haste to the village to meet with her again, until I learned in 2018 that she had finally passed from this earthly life. So why was this woman so dear to me? She stole my heart because she was beaming with joy in the midst of the squalor of her rural Indian life. Not just when I took her photo, but every time I saw her. Okay, you can take that down, Rosie, thank you. The poignancy of that juxtaposition, the squalor of her life, and the joy in her eyes taught me one of the most important psychological lessons I've yet to learn. The small hut in which she sat and the very narrow alleyway that ran in front of it was the limit of her geographical orbit. She possessed virtually nothing save a few articles of clothing and a pan out of which to eat and a very thin straw mat upon which to sleep on the dirt floor of her hut. Yet there she was, beaming with joy at a passerby who offered her nothing more than a simple "Vanakkam," hello, and a brief request for a selfish photograph. It was one of my many National Geographic moments on my pilgrimages to India. So there's the psychological lesson that the joy of life arises from within. This lesson was reinforced for me in the eyes of almost everyone I met on my pilgrimages when I ventured into the villages in rural India. Contrary-wise, I rarely see us Westerners beaming with joy. Why not? As Aurelius counsels us, it's because of how we see our circumstances. We in the West have bought into the materialistic narrative that more is always better, that one can never have enough. But consequently, we tend to see our circumstances as always wanting more, more, more. For us, to beam with joy is dependent on the acquisition of more and more and more. Now, it's not that more is a bad thing. It's just that more becomes problematic when it defines the way one views one's circumstances, which almost always happens. We tend to compare our circumstances to those around us, and there are always those with more. So now, whenever the woe of life strikes me, I pause and I ask myself how much the more has come to define my circumstances. And then my mind and my heart return to an elderly rural Indian woman who lived in squalor in a little hut in southern India, but who beamed with relentless joy. Friends, we are surrounded by so many blessings. Let's make it a practice to count our blessings every day. Nobody needs much to be happy. It's all in how you see your own circumstances. You definitely don't have to take the baby out if that's where you're going. I hope you're not leaving. It is fine. In fact, I was sitting here listening during our first moment of silence to the baby, not crying, but making baby noises, and I thought to myself, the exuberance and the energy and the bliss of the life force. So, I can out-preach a baby. I got a mic. Don't leave, whatever you do. You don't need to have an opinion about everything. Ooh, did that one strike a chord? Don't get worked up about the things you can't control. These things didn't ask for your attention. Leave them alone. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. Don't get worked up about things you can't control. These things didn't ask for your attention. Leave them alone. Have you ever considered the possibility that the things about which we have opinions, the things about which we get worked up, the things to which we choose to attend are more often than not indicators of the privileged lives we lead? So much with which we allow ourselves to be concerned is flotsam on the river of life, not the river itself. That river of life that truly sustains us with all its life-giving waters. What a privilege it is to even have to worry about the housing market. The woman living at the elder home in rural India would never consider such a problem set. What a privilege it is to have a 401k about which to obsess every morning when I drink my cup of coffee, to make sure the Fed assures that I can retire when I want to. What a privilege it is to have to make a choice about what college to attend. What a privilege it is to worry about the ailments that strike us after midlife, when throughout the course of human history, until the last 100 or so years, most people didn't make it to midlife. As you've heard me say before, I've been incredibly lucky to have had people in my life who have mentored me and been willing to have patience with the scoundrel that I am. I would not be who I am today without those people. And it's because of them that I live contented in my own skin. And thinking on this piece by Aurelius, I am reminded of one particular person who taught me a very important lesson in my mid-20s. This friend was considerably older than me by 25, 30 years. And though a dear friend, and we really were best friends for a while, he was roughly my father's age, so sometimes I saw him through that lens as well. And it was also for that reason that I found it rather odd that he drove a Ford Mustang at his age. I wasn't driving a Ford Mustang. I was 20-some years old. I should have been driving the Mustang, but it was his, and he was very attached to it. So I wrote this off as a midlife crisis, until one day he shared with me why he drove that car. "Why are you so attached to this car?" I asked finally. "Is this your midlife crisis?" "Nope," he said. "This is the car my son was driving when he had his accident. I am never going to sell this car." My friend's son was a quadriplegic. One night, coming home late from a bar, having had too much to drink, he was in a horrific accident. And the rest of the story is very predictable. Despite all the trials and tribulations of that time in his life, my friend came out of it all with deep gratitude. Though severely compromised, his son was still alive. Ever since then, he told me, I've had an entirely different perspective on life. Whenever I get overwhelmed by it all, I stop and I ask myself, does this really matter? Does that really matter? What really matters? What I've learned, he went on to say to me, is that there isn't a whole lot that really matters. People matter. And love matters. And that's about it. Oh, what a lesson. People matter and love matters. That's about it. We all profess this, but we don't live it. We're too busy paying attention to the flotsam on the river of life. We don't take the time to drink deeply from that river of life that sustains us with those life-giving waters. So we need to learn to leave everything else alone, in Aurelius's words, or at least learn to ask ourselves the question, does this really matter? Does that really matter? What really matters? You don't need to have an opinion about everything. Don't get worked up about the things you can't control. These things didn't ask for your attention. Leave them alone. All right, one more. Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water. Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water. So when I think about this piece of wisdom, I think about the meaning of strength. After all, if you've ever allowed yourself to be buoyed about by the ocean, I have. Whenever I'm near the ocean, I go in over my head, and I float. And sometimes it's wavy. And I realize the power and the force that's buoying me up could easily end me. The ocean is very powerful. And if you've ever had that experience, you understand. Life is a very powerful force, and you are very finite. So how can we be like the rock face and tame the waves? Well, I think about how much stronger the cliff must be to be able to stand against the continuous onslaught of oceanic waves. There's a lot of power in nature. And typically, when we think about what it means to be strong, we tend to think of the capacity for resistance or exertion. One demonstrates one's strength by resisting or exerting oneself against an opposing force. A wrestler is strong if he can overcome the physical force of his opponent. A politician is strong if she can outthink her opponent in a debate. Strength is typically thought in terms of resistance or exertion against an opposing force. And with this in mind, let's think about that cliff and that ocean again. Does the cliff actually resist or exert itself against the oceanic waves? It does not. But it must be strong if those oceanic waves continually break against it. If, to steal Aurelius' phrase, it stands firm and tames the fury of the water. The strength of the cliff is a different form of strength. The cliff is not even cognizant of the ocean, and hence does not resist or exert itself against it. The cliff is simply a cliff. As I think about this, I think that there is a certain strength in just being what one is. There is a certain strength in just being what one is. One doesn't have to be this or that or in any way different than what one is. This is the lesson the cliff teaches us, the neutrality of being. Neutrality is a very powerful force. Now, granted, there are times when being neutral is not a moral option. For instance, being neutral in the face of injustice is to side with an offender. And so there are circumstances in which being neutral is not a moral option. But the rest of the time, being neutral may be the best way to be. There are times when being neutral is a powerful force that can tame the fury of the water. So let me give you an example. A while back, I had a friend confide in me the details of a fierce argument he had with another friend. A fierce argument. And I got the whole story blow by blow. And as often the case in the retelling of the incident, was concealed a petition for my approval of my friend. My friend was somewhat taken aback when, rather than approve of his role in the incident, I asked, "What did you gain in this argument?" "I made my point," he said, "and I was right. I know you think so." Well, rather than affirm his attribution of my thinking, I asked another question. What did you lose by winning this argument? "I didn't lose anything," he said. "I was right. I won." "I beg to differ. I suspect you've lost a friend." And I continued, "What if you hadn't bothered to argue?" And he insisted, "But I was right." And then I asked him another question. Aren't you strong enough not to have to be right? You see, one doesn't have to engage everything that engages one, nor does one have to share every feeling that one has or every thought that crosses one's mind. Perhaps true strength lies in just letting things be, whether external things or internal things, no matter how much such things clamor for one's attention. Staying neutral in the midst of it all is a form of strength. Such neutrality tames the fury of the water, and I suggest sometimes preserves friendships. Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but stands firm and tames the fury of the water. Our last hymn this morning is number 1009 in the Teal Hymnal. If you have your Teal Hymnal with you, if not, the words, I believe, will appear, yes they will, behind the pulpit on the screen. And I remember I like this hymn, but I don't remember how long it is. Should we do it a couple times? Let's do it 3 times. Okay, would you stand? We good? All right, please be seated. Somebody once asked me, what's your process for writing sermons? I have no idea. I took a homiletics course in divinity school and I hated it. So I just somehow have this organic way of doing sermons, and during that hymn, I just wrote a sermon. So I think we'll be visiting that one probably after the first of the year. You could do some cool things with that, really. It'll expand our liturgical envelope. All right, Noriko, would you come up and extinguish our chalice? And again, this is another anonymous saying. When you stop chasing the wrong things, you give the right things the opportunity to catch you. All right, thank you. Blessed be, and I'll do a receiving line this morning and hopefully meet you all in coffee hour. And don't forget the 10,000 villages that are set up there.